This 87-year-old war veteran just did something that left Prince William speechless, and what happened next will completely change how you see the royal family. Picture this: Buckingham Palace, 2024. Golden invitations going out across the UK for the annual honours ceremony. But there's one invitation that comes back. Rejected. The name on the returned envelope. Margaret Maggie Thompson, 87, Royal Navy veteran, decorated for her service in the Falklands War as one of the first female naval engineers in combat zones. The palace staff are confused. Nobody, and I mean nobody, turns down a medal from the crown. Not in 200 years of recorded history. But here's where it gets interesting. Prince William is reviewing the honors list when he sees the rejection. He stops, stares at the file. Because Margaret Thompson isn't just any veteran. Her service record reads like something out of a movie. 1982, HMS Sheffield under attack. While the ship is literally sinking around her, this woman single-handedly kept the emergency power running for 40 minutes, saving the lives of 23 sailors who were trapped below deck. She suffered third-degree burns on 60% of her body, spent 2 years in recovery, never complained, never asked for recognition, and now, she's saying no to the highest honor her country can give. William closes the file, makes a decision that shocks his entire staff. Cancel my meetings for tomorrow. I'm going to Yorkshire. His private secretary nearly chokes on his tea. Sir, you can't just visit someone unannounced. There are protocols, security. Then announce me, William says quietly. This woman deserves an explanation. Cut to a tiny council flat in Middlesbrough, peeling wallpaper but spotlessly clean. Margaret Thompson is making tea when there's a knock at her door. She opens it expecting the postman. Instead, there's the future King of England standing on her doorstep with 2 protection officers, holding her rejected invitation. Mrs. Thompson, he says softly, I believe this belongs to you. Now here's what you need to understand about Margaret. She's 4'11", uses a walking stick, and hasn't left her neighborhood in 3 years since her husband died. But when she looks at Prince William, her spine straightens like she's back on deck. Your Royal Highness, she says calmly, I sent that back for a reason. William asks if he can come in. She makes tea, proper tea, not the fancy stuff. They sit in her tiny living room surrounded by photos of her late husband, her Navy days, her children who live too far away to visit often. Why? William asks simply. Margaret sets down her cup, takes a breath, and what she says next stops William cold. Because I don't deserve it, sir. William blinks. I'm sorry? That medal, it's for heroism, isn't it? For doing something brave. Mrs. Thompson, you saved 23 lives while your ship was I killed a boy. The room goes dead silent. William doesn't speak, doesn't move, just waits. Margaret's hands shake as she continues. April 15, 1982. During the attack, there was an Argentine pilot, couldn't have been more than 19. His plane was hit, coming down fast. He ejected right over our position. She pauses, staring at a photo on the wall, her in her Navy uniform, young and smiling. I was manning the emergency station topside when I saw his parachute. He was going to land right on the deck. Protocol said to treat him as enemy combatant until secured. William leans forward slightly. But when he landed, he was just a kid, sir. Scared out of his mind. Couldn't have been much older than my own son. He was crying, speaking Spanish, probably calling for his mother. Her voice breaks. I raised my weapon. He saw me and he smiled. Actually smiled and raised his hands. Probably thought he was safe because I was a woman. Because I looked like someone's mum. The tears start flowing now. The ship lurched from another hit. I lost my footing. My finger was on the trigger, and she can't finish. William reaches across and gently takes her hand. Mrs. Thompson, I've lived with that boy's face for 42 years, sir. Every night. Every single night. How can I accept a medal for heroism when I took a child's life by accident? When his mother somewhere in Argentina has spent 4 decades wondering why her boy never came home. And this is where Prince William does something that will stick with you. He doesn't give her the speech about war and duty and how these things happen. He doesn't minimize her pain or tell her she's wrong to feel guilty. Instead, he asks quietly, what was his name? What? The pilot. Did you ever find out his name? Margaret nods slowly. Carlos Eduardo Mendoza. I've been writing letters to the Argentine embassy for 20 years trying to find his family, to tell them what happened, to say I'm sorry, and they never write back. William is quiet for a long moment. Then he pulls out his phone. Mrs. Thompson, would you like me to help you find them? 2 months later, a small church in Middlesbrough is fuller than it's been in years. Margaret Thompson sits in the front row, wearing her old Navy uniform that she had to let out because she's been eating better lately. Next to her sits a woman about her age with kind eyes and graying hair. Isabella Mendoza, Carlos's mother. They'd flown her over from Buenos Aires after William's people tracked her down. The reunion 2 days ago was, well, let's just say there wasn't a dry eye in the room when these two mothers embraced and forgave each other for a war that neither of them started. Prince William stands at the altar of this tiny church, not as royalty but as a witness. "Mrs. Thompson," he says, "you taught me something important, that true honor isn't about the medals we wear or the recognition we receive. It's about carrying our responsibilities, all of them, even the painful ones, with dignity and grace." He holds up the medal she'd rejected. "You don't want this because you think you don't deserve it. But I'm here to tell you that your ability to carry grief, to seek forgiveness, to never stop caring about the life of someone who was supposed to be your enemy, that's not just heroism, that's humanity." Margaret is crying again. So is Isabel. So is pretty much everyone in that church. "But this medal isn't really for what you did 42 years ago," William continues. "It's for what you've done every day since. For the 23 families who got to hug their loved ones again because of your actions. For the letters you wrote seeking forgiveness. For the man you married who told me yesterday that you never let a day pass without doing something kind for someone else." He pauses. "For showing a future king that sometimes the most royal thing you can do is admit when you're hurting." Margaret stands slowly, Isabella helping steady her. "Will you accept it now?" William asks softly. Margaret looks at Isabella, who nods encouragingly. "Only if she'll pin it on me," Margaret whispers. The ending that changes everything. The ceremony ends. Photos are taken. Isabella and Margaret exchange addresses and promise to keep writing. But as friends now, not strangers bound by tragedy. As William prepares to leave, Margaret stops him. "Your Royal Highness, can I tell you something?" "Of course. When I was young, I thought heroes were people who never made mistakes. People who always knew the right thing to do." She glances back at Isabella, who's laughing with Margaret's neighbors over tea and biscuits. "But real heroes are the ones who make mistakes and spend their whole lives trying to make them right, who choose love even when it's harder than hate, who reach across oceans to hold the hand of someone they hurt." William nods, understanding completely. "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson, for the lesson." As his car pulls away, Margaret and Isabella stand together in the doorway, waving. Two mothers, two countries, one shared understanding that healing is possible, even after decades of pain. But here's the part that'll give you chills. 6 months later, a small scholarship fund is established at the Royal Naval College, the Carlos Eduardo Mendoza Margaret Thompson Memorial Scholarship, for young people from both the UK and Argentina who want to study conflict resolution and international peace. The first recipient? A 19-year-old girl from Buenos Aires whose great-uncle was killed in the Falklands War. The second? A young man from Middlesbrough whose grandmother served in the Navy. Margaret and Isabella attend the ceremony together, still writing letters, still sharing stories. Still proving that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is choose to turn your pain into purpose. Prince William? He keeps a photo from that church ceremony on his desk, not because he's in it, but because it reminds him that real leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up when someone needs you to witness their truth. And that's why this story matters. In a world full of people fighting about everything, here's proof that forgiveness is possible, that understanding can bridge any divide, that sometimes the people who think they deserve recognition the least are the ones who deserve it the most. Margaret Thompson never wanted to be famous. She just wanted to do right by a boy she killed by accident 42 years ago. Instead, she taught a prince, and now all of us, what real honor looks like. Drop a veen if this story hit you as hard as it hit me. And remember, you never know whose life you might change just by showing up and listening to their truth.